A millionaire spotted a black soldier, drenched and alone at a bus stop. "You're coming with me," he said. He didn't know it, but stopping for her would pull them both into a war fought off the battlefield. The rain was beating down on the windshield of the Mercedes when Robert Vance saw the lonely figure at the deserted bus stop. He wasn't the kind of person who would normally stop. He had an important meeting in 20 minutes, and his millionaire schedule didn't include spontaneous acts of charity. But something about the woman's bearing made him slam on the brakes. She stood there straight as a statue, even though she was soaked through. Her military uniform was immaculate despite the storm, her medals shining against the dark fabric. She was a soldier who had clearly just returned from somewhere far away and very dangerous. Robert rolled down the window. "Hey, are you going to stand there until you freeze to death?" The woman looked at him with eyes that had seen too much. "Thanks, sir, but I'm fine." "No, you're not." He unlocked the door. "Get in." "That's not a request." Captain Lena Evans hesitated for a moment. At 32, after 3 tours in the Middle East and an impeccable military career, she had learned not to trust easily. But there was something in this man's voice, an authority that didn't come from arrogance, but from someone who knew pain. She got in the car. "Robert Vance," he introduced himself, extending his hand. "Captain Evans." She shook his hand firmly. "Where are we going?" "Home. My home." Robert watched her reflection in the rearview mirror. "You look like someone who needs a safe place to process whatever happened today." Lena closed her eyes. If he only knew. 3 hours earlier, she had been escorted off the military base where she had served for 10 years. False charges of insubordination. Career destroyed. Benefits suspended. All because she refused to keep quiet about what she had witnessed on her last assignment. "Why are you doing this?" she asked. Robert was silent for a moment. "Because I recognized the look of someone who has been betrayed by the very system she swore to protect." It was a strange answer coming from a man in a $200,000 Mercedes. Lena studied his profile, jaw firm, eyes focused on the road, but with a deep sadness that money couldn't hide. "Did you ever serve?" she asked. "My wife did." His voice hardened almost imperceptibly. "Before she discovered that some enemies wore the same uniform as you." The car stopped in front of a mansion that looked like something out of a magazine. Perfect lawns, huge windows, the epitome of the American dream. But Lena noticed something most people would miss. Security cameras on every corner, reinforced gates, and Robert checking his cell phone compulsively. A man who had everything but lived as if he were on constant alert. "Welcome to the fortress," he said with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "My daughter will love meeting a real hero." Hero. The word echoed in Lena's mind with bitter irony. If only he knew that at that moment she was technically homeless, careerless, and had only $300 in the bank. But there was something in the way Robert looked at her. Not as a victim or a charity case, but as an equal, as someone who understood that some battles aren't fought on battlefields, but in boardrooms and military courts. As they walked toward the front door, Lena had no idea that she was about to enter not just a house, but the center of a storm that would test everything she believed about justice, loyalty, and the true price of courage. If you've ever wondered how far a person will go to protect those they love, prepare to discover that some revenge is served on fine china, and that your true enemies aren't always across the ocean. Inside the mansion, Robert watched Lena study every corner of the room with eyes trained to detect threats. She noticed the exits, the cameras, the blind spots, automatic military behavior that confirmed her suspicions about who this man was. "Daddy!" A soft voice came from the stairs. A 12-year-old girl appeared, her curly hair framing a face that blended the delicacy of childhood with a premature maturity in her eyes. "Chloe, come meet Captain Evans," Robert said, the pride in his voice unmistakable. Lena bent down to be at the girl's height. "You can call me Lena. Are you a real soldier?" Chloe asked, fascinated. "I was," Lena replied, the word carrying a weight that Robert picked up immediately. Later, while Chloe watched television, Robert served coffee in the kitchen. "Do you want to talk about what happened today?" Lena hesitated, then decided she owed an explanation to those who had offered her shelter. 3 months ago, during my last mission in Afghanistan, I witnessed something I shouldn't have seen. She paused, the words weighing heavily in her throat. My commander, Colonel Marcus Thorne, was diverting medical supplies meant for Afghan civilians. He was selling them on the black market and pocketing the profits. Soldiers under my command were dying because we didn't have enough equipment while he was financing a mansion in Virginia. Robert leaned forward. Did you report it? I followed the chain of command. Thorne's second-in-command, Major Thompson, told me to focus on my own responsibilities. The irony in Lena's voice was cutting. 2 weeks later, during a rescue operation, 3 of my soldiers died because we lacked basic medical kits. Kits that Thorne had sold the week before. What did you do? I documented everything. Printouts of the transactions, photos of the supplies being loaded onto civilian trucks, recordings of conversations. Lena tapped her cell phone in her pocket. When I got back to the United States, I took the evidence straight to the Pentagon. Robert saw the anger grow in her eyes. And they destroyed you for it. Worse, they accused me of fabricating evidence and attempting to extort a superior officer. They said I was a problem soldier with a history of insubordination. A history that miraculously appeared out of thin air. Lena laughed humorlessly. Within 72 hours, my 10-year career, my pension, my medical benefits, gone. Is Thorne still in command? Not only that, Lena's voice trembled with contained fury. He was promoted to general last week. Meanwhile, I'm officially homeless with $300 in the bank and a tarnished military reputation that prevents me from getting any decent job. Robert was silent for a long moment. Then he surprised Lena with an unexpected question. Do you still have the evidence? Everything. Backups in 5 different locations. She studied him. Why do you ask? Because you may not be the first person Thorne silenced. And maybe, Robert paused, choosing his words carefully. Maybe you found someone who knows how to use that evidence the right way. Lena raised an eyebrow. What kind of business do you run, Robert Vance? The kind that teaches powerful men that not every war is fought in uniform. He stood up, walking over to a shelf and removing a framed photo. This is my wife, Sarah, or she was. The photo showed a beautiful woman in an Air Force uniform, medals gleaming on her chest, a radiant smile on her lips. She discovered that her commander was selling flight information to terrorist groups. Information that resulted in the shooting down of 3 American helicopters. Robert's voice hardened. When she reported it, she was charged with treason and espionage. Lena felt her stomach sink. What happened to her? Suicide. At least that's what the official report said. Robert put the photo away with excessive care. She called me the night before she died, saying she discovered something big, something that was going to be in the papers the next morning. They found her body at 6 o'clock in the morning. The silence between them hung heavy. After the funeral, Robert continued, I spent every penny I had investigating her death. I uncovered a network of corruption that went all the way to the top of the military hierarchy. But evidence isn't enough when the judges are in on it, too. So you gave up. Robert smiled, but there was no humor in that smile. I didn't give up. I changed my strategy. I spent the last 5 years building a military technology empire. Billion-dollar contracts with the Pentagon, relationships with senators, generals, journalists. He looked directly at Lena. Sometimes to beat the system, you have to become bigger than it. Lena processed the information. You're saying that? I'm saying that maybe it's time to teach General Thorne a lesson about underestimating people he considers disposable. At that moment, Lena's cell phone vibrated. A message from an unknown number. Lena Evans. You should have learned to keep quiet. Some truths cost more than a career. They cost lives. A friend. Robert saw the blood drain from her face. Threats. They know where I am, she whispered. No, Robert corrected. They know where you were. Now you're under my protection. And trust me, Lena, I've learned that the best defense is a devastating offense. Lena looked at the man in front of her, seeing not just a millionaire single father, but a soldier in a different kind of war. A war fought in boardrooms and courtrooms, where revenge was served cold and calculated. "Why are you doing this?" she asked again. "Because," Robert said, already picking up the laptop, "some ghosts only rest when justice finally arrives, and because something tells me you're not the type to give up easily." As he typed, the screen lit up with government contract files, military officer profiles, and a network of connections that would impress any investigator. Lena realized she hadn't stumbled into any house. She had stumbled into a command center, and for the first time in months, something inside her that had been broken began to regroup. Not in despair, but in anticipation. Thorne had seriously underestimated who she really was. More importantly, he had completely underestimated who she had just allied herself with. The war was far from over. In fact, it was just beginning. 3 days after the threat, Lena's life turned into a meticulously orchestrated bureaucratic nightmare. Her bank account was frozen under the pretext of a financial irregularities investigation. Her rented apartment? The landlord had received an anonymous tip about suspicious activity. Her former military colleagues stopped returning her calls. General Thorne wasn't just trying to silence her, Robert explained as he pored over documents in his mansion office. He was systematically erasing her existence. He's using the classic playbook: social isolation, economic pressure, destruction of credibility. My wife went through the same process. Lena held an official letter from the Department of Veterans Affairs. They denied my request for medical assistance. They said that because I was discharged under questionable circumstances, I'm not entitled to benefits. Her voice trembled with contained anger. 10 years serving my country, and now I'm treated like a criminal. Chloe appeared at the door carrying a cup of hot chocolate. "For you," she said shyly to Lena. "Dad said you're going through a difficult time." Lena accepted the cup, touched by the kindness. "Thank you, sweetheart. Mom was a soldier too," Chloe continued. "Dad says women soldiers are the bravest people in the world, but not everyone understands that." After Chloe left, Robert leaned forward. "I need to show you something." He opened his laptop and navigated to an encrypted folder. "For the past 5 years, I haven't just been building a company. I've been building a network." The screen showed a complex family tree of military, political, and media connections. Senators Thorne thinks he controls, investigative journalists with a history of taking down corrupt officials, military officers who are clean and hate what men like Thorne do to the uniform. "Are you suggesting an information war?" "I'm suggesting strategic justice." Robert clicked on another file. "Remember Sarah? Before she died, she didn't just get evidence on her commander. She got evidence on an entire network, including a young major named Marcus Thorne." Lena felt the blood drain from her face. Thorne was involved in his wife's death? Not directly, but he was part of the scheme she uncovered. And when she threatened to expose it, Robert clenched his fists. Let's just say some accidents are very convenient. The next morning, an unexpected figure appeared at the door. Senator Regina Bell, a black woman in her 50s, a former military officer known for her crusade against corruption in the Pentagon. "Robert told me about your situation," she said bluntly, without beating around the bush. "And I've known Marcus Thorne since he was an arrogant major who thought the rules didn't apply to him. Senator, I appreciate your concern, but I don't know if—" "Let me stop you there, Captain Evans." The senator sat down, her presence commanding immediate respect. 6 months ago, my committee began an investigation into military corruption in the Middle East. We have suspicions, but we need solid evidence. You've appeared as a gift from heaven. Lena glanced at Robert, who nodded encouragingly. "What exactly are you proposing?" "That we stop playing defense," the senator replied. "Thorne thinks you're just another troublesome soldier he can crush. He doesn't know he's messing with an operation that goes far beyond his petty ambitions." Robert opened a new folder on his computer. "Over the past 3 days, while Thorne has been playing at destroying your life, my cybersecurity team, all ex-military personnel Sarah helped recruit before she died, has been monitoring all of his communications. The screen filled with printouts of messages, emails, and audio recordings. He's not just selling medical supplies, Robert continued. He's selling military intelligence to private contractors, overcharging the government, and using American soldiers as pawns in a personal enrichment scheme. That's treason on multiple levels, Lena murmured, studying the evidence. And the best part, the senator smiled with satisfaction. Tomorrow he's making a presentation to the Senate Defense Committee asking for increased funding for equipment modernization. It will be broadcast live on C-SPAN. Lena began to understand the plan. You want me to? We want you to show up at that hearing, Robert said, not as an accused soldier, but as the lead witness in a Senate investigation with backup from senators, irrefutable evidence, and national media coverage. Thorne thinks he silenced you, the senator added. Imagine the look on his face when you stand up in that audience, microphone in hand, with the entire country watching. That night, Lena couldn't sleep. She paced around the house, processing the magnitude of what was about to happen. Robert found her in the kitchen at 3 o'clock in the morning. Nervous. Not nervous. She turned to him. Determined. She paused. You've been planning this for 5 years. I've been preparing for the right moment for 5 years. You're the right moment, Lena. Sarah would be proud. Lena touched the cell phone where she kept her original evidence. He really thought that by destroying me, he would destroy the truth. Men like Thorne always make the same mistake, Robert said softly. They confuse silencing the messenger with silencing the message. The next morning, as Thorne prepared for his triumphant presentation to Congress, completely unaware of what was about to happen, Lena adjusted the lapel microphone that the senator's staff had provided. Remember, Robert said on the phone, coordinating with his tech team, the moment she identifies herself, send the files to all press contacts simultaneously. I want it to be too late for damage control by the time Thorne realizes what's happening. Lena looked in the car mirror on her way to the Capitol. In 48 hours, she had gone from a homeless, disgraced soldier to the centerpiece of an operation that could change the entire system of military corruption. But as the Capitol loomed majestically against the blue Washington sky, one question hammered at her mind. Had Thorne really underestimated the situation that much? Or was there something they didn't know yet? Because men who rise to the rank of general rarely survive that long by being completely naive about their enemies. That's when her cell phone vibrated with a message from an unknown number. I see you found some powerful friends, Lena. Too bad they don't know the whole truth about you. See you at the hearing. A friend. Someone who knows your darkest secret. Lena's blood ran cold. Thorne had discovered something that neither Robert nor the senator knew about. Something from her past that could destroy not only her, but everyone who dared to support her. The congressional hearing room was packed with C-SPAN cameras broadcasting live when General Marcus Thorne took the podium, adjusting his impeccable uniform laden with medals. His presentation on military equipment modernization was about to secure billion-dollar contracts and another opportunity to embezzle millions. Honorable Senators, he began in a confident voice, our proposal aims to protect our soldiers with cutting-edge technology. In the audience, Lena took a deep breath. Robert whispered to her side. Remember, when Senator Bell gives the signal, stand up and identify yourself. The rest is in our hands. Thorne continued his polished presentation, completely oblivious to what was coming. Unfortunately, we face problematic soldiers who spread misinformation about our operations, trying to tarnish the reputation of dedicated officers. That's when Senator Bell leaned toward the microphone. General Thorne, before you continue, I would like to introduce a special witness who has relevant information about your operations. Thorne's smile faltered for a split second. Senator, I don't understand. Captain Lena Evans, please introduce yourself. Lena rose slowly, and the blood drained from Thorne's face as if he had seen a ghost. She walked to the audience microphone, each step echoing in the sudden silence of the room. Good morning, General Thorne, Lena said, her voice clear and firm. Surprised to see me? Thorne tried to regain his composure. Senator Bell, this woman was discharged from military service for fabricating evidence and it is precisely those allegations that she is here to testify about, the senator interrupted. But first, I would like the public to know what Captain Evans really discovered in Afghanistan. Robert, sitting strategically at the back of the room, discreetly activated his laptop. In real time, files began to be sent to dozens of journalists in attendance. General Thorne, Lena continued, do you remember this conversation? She held up a small audio device. Recording from March 15th at 2:30 p.m. in your command tent. Thorne's voice echoed through the speakers. Colonel Thompson, those medical supplies are worth $50,000 on the black market. Send them to the usual contact and transfer my share to the Cayman Islands account. The room exploded in murmurs. Thorne jumped out of his chair. This is a fake. A montage. Interesting, Senator Bell said calmly, because we also have these photographs. The screens in the room filled with images of Thorne supervising the loading of medical supplies onto civilian trucks. And these bank records, Robert added, standing up and walking to the front, showing transfers of $470,000 to the general's personal accounts over the last 18 months. Thorne was losing control. Who is this man? He has no authority to. Robert Vance, CEO of Vance Defense Technologies. Robert replied with a cold smile. And the man who supplies 60% of the communication systems you've used to coordinate your illegal operations. Systems which, by happy coincidence, automatically record all communications for security purposes. The color drained from Thorne's face. He realized the trap. He had used Robert's own technology to incriminate himself for years. Senator, Thorne stammered. I can explain. General Thorne, Lena interrupted, stepping closer to the microphone. 3 soldiers under my command died because you sold the medical equipment that could have saved them. Private Miller, 22 years old. Corporal Davies, 24 years old. Specialist Kim, only 19 years old. Her voice didn't waver once. They died while you were buying your 3rd house in Virginia. The silence in the room was deafening. Thorne tried one last desperate gambit. You don't know the whole truth about her, he shouted, pointing at Lena. She killed innocent civilians during an operation. That's why she was really discharged. Lena smiled for the first time since she had entered the room. General Thorne, thank you for bringing that up. She turned to the audience. That is exactly the lie he planted in my file after I confronted him about corruption. Robert activated a new screen. Here is the original report of the operation before it was altered. Captain Evans saved 16 Afghan civilians during a terrorist attack, risking her own life. And here, added Senator Bell, is the recording of the order General Thorne gave to alter that report and create the false charges against Captain Evans. Thorne's own voice echoed again. Destroy her reputation. Make up whatever you need to. She can't look like a hero when we're tearing her down. Thorne slumped in his chair, the weight of defeat finally hitting him. All the lies, all the corruption, all the arrogance, all crumbling live on national television. General Thorne, Lena said, stepping closer. You said that some soldiers are a problem. You're right. Soldiers who refuse to remain silent when they see officers betraying their own men are indeed a problem for people like you. The cameras captured every detail of Thorne's humiliation. His empire of corruption, built through years of abuse of power, was crumbling in a matter of minutes. Robert watched with satisfaction as reporters bombarded Thorne with questions he couldn't answer. The man who had indirectly caused Sarah's death was finally paying the price. The hearing is adjourned, Senator Bell announced. General Thorne, consider yourself under formal criminal investigation. As Thorne was escorted out of the room by military police officers, he passed Lena one last time. You don't know what you've gotten yourself into, he muttered under his breath. Lena stared him down. General, in 10 years, I've learned that there are 2 kinds of soldiers. Those who protect the innocent and those who protect themselves from the innocent. Today, the entire country found out which kind you are. As the doors closed behind him, Lena finally felt something she hadn't felt in months. Not revenge, but justice. The difference was that revenge would have left her empty, but justice was leaving her whole. Robert approached her in the hallway crowded with reporters. "How do you feel?" "Like a soldier," Lena replied simply. "For the first time in a long time, like a real soldier." But as camera flashes exploded around them and Thorne was led away in custody, one question remained. What happens when justice finally prevails? Are some victories too big to be true? Or does the system sometimes really work when the right people come together for the right reason? 6 months after the hearing that destroyed General Thorne's career, Lena watched from the window of her new office at the Pentagon. Officially reinstated to the armed forces with all honors restored, she now headed a new military integrity division created specifically after the Thorne scandal made national headlines. The irony was delicious. The man who had tried to destroy her had inadvertently created her dream job. "Major Evans," Robert corrected, entering with coffee. Lena had been promoted 3 times in 6 months, a historic redress that became a case study in military justice. "Did you see the news about Thorne?" Robert nodded grimly. Former General Marcus Thorne had been sentenced to 20 years in prison for treason and corruption. His fortune had been confiscated to compensate the victims' families. His wife had filed for divorce, and his children had changed their last names. Even more devastating, he was serving his sentence in a military prison where corrupt former officers were not exactly popular. "He tried to call me from prison last week," Lena continued. "He said he wanted to apologize. Did you take it?" "No. Some people confuse forgiveness with reconciliation. I forgave Thorne for my own well-being, but that doesn't mean he deserves a second of my time." Chloe came running in, now 13, and radiating confidence. "Lena, Dad said you won another award. Military Integrity Award of the Year," Robert confirmed proudly. "3rd this year." Lena looked at the stack of letters on her desk. "I get 50 messages a week from soldiers reporting corruption. The division he indirectly created has already investigated 23 similar cases on bases across the country." The phone rang. "Major Evans, Senator Bell on line 2. "Lena, great news." The senator's voice was bright and triumphant. The bill to protect military whistleblowers passed the Senate. Soldiers who report corruption will now have automatic legal protection. After hanging up, Lena leaned back in her chair. 2 years ago, she was homeless at a bus stop. Today, she was literally rewriting the rules to protect honest soldiers. "You know what gives me the most satisfaction," she said to Robert. "It's not seeing Thorne in prison. It's knowing that no soldier will ever go through what I did. This law will protect generations." That night during dinner, Chloe asked a question that summed it all up. "Lena, do you regret reporting the general?" Lena looked around the table, Robert smiling genuinely, Chloe growing up with an unshakable sense of justice, and a family built not in spite of adversity, but because of it. "Chloe, the truth is an expensive luxury, but it's always worth the price. Thorne tried to teach me that some secrets cost careers. I taught him that some silences cost souls. General Marcus Thorne now shares a 6-foot by 9-foot cell, eating food from a metal tray, and counting the 20 years he has left to live. Major Lena Evans heads a division at the Pentagon, lives in a mansion with the family she chose, and wakes up every day protecting honest soldiers. The best revenge, she discovered, is not to stoop to your enemy's level. It's to rise so high that they become irrelevant. If you've ever faced injustices that seemed impossible to overcome, remember the truth has a strange way of finding its way into the light.